So Wage, am I right? It's pretty
Yeah.
cool, huh?
Oh, look.
Oh my god. Hi, I'm Abby, and I'm a grade 12 student here at Garden City.
Hi, I'm Sammy, and I'm also a grade 12 student here at
And
Garden
we are
City.
part of Wage.
So in honor of both International Women's Day and Women's History Month, we decided to put together a video of us interviewing fellow students and teachers here at the school.
Yeah, so I would say first of all, my mom inspires me. She was a single mom and she had to work really hard to get her education, to raise me basically on her own in a different time. So I take a lot of inspiration from her, and I very much stand on her shoulders. And other than that, I would say I'm really inspired by the young people that I work with, yourself being one of them for sure. But I see my students, graduate and grow up and grow into women, and it's amazing to be able to, somehow be a part of their journey, and sometimes stay in contact with them, and some of them wind up actually teaching me in the end. So, I was able to teach Madame Neto, and now she's a colleague, and I learn a lot from her. And I was able to teach, one of our grads is Tracy Layost, and now she's a really important community member, in our Indigenous communities here in Manitoba. So I'm inspired by, the women who came before me, and also the women who are coming up. You're all amazing.
I would say my grandma. She took care of my grandpa when he was sick, and I can see that she's a strong, independent woman, and that makes me want to be that too.
I'm afraid that this answer might sound a little cliched, but it's my mom. My mom is a woman who has been a feminist for most of her life and has worked hard in the world of business to break through certain barriers. She worked for many years as a senior manager at Manitoba Hydro at a time when there was no other women in senior management there. So having grown up with a woman like that in my life has always been my inspiration.
Definitely. Obviously, your mom's always going to be one of your biggest inspirations, and for me, she definitely is, as someone who has had a bunch of setbacks but still pushed and had the family that they did and the life that she's having. It's just very inspirational, and it made me want to be a kind of parent like her. And she's just one of the best people I'll ever know, and it's just no one will be as important as her to me as she is.
I would say there's many women that inspire me. I think it starts with my grandma. I actually have a red streak in my hair because she used to have fiery red hair in her 80s, and she was somebody who always spoke her mind, always stood by what she believed in. I would say also, though, it's all the young women and people who identify as female that I work with at the school who inspire me, who remind me that as a feminist, we're constantly evolving on what that means and what we're supporting and what we're fighting for. So I would say that there's many women that inspire me.
There are a lot of women out there that inspire me, honestly. It was kind of hard for me to think of someone, but I could say my favorite singer, Stephanie Jong, is a big inspiration to me. It's just really inspiring to see someone who has been affected by misogyny all their life to just kind of push through that and still make it to the top, I guess. And that's something that's really inspiring to me personally.
Well, there's a lot of reasons. I think that we recognize that throughout history, women have not been treated equally, and that there's many inequalities to what happens in the world around us. There's an increase in violence against women, and there's a lot of reasons why we need to continue to support women and uplift and empower women in this world. I think also I read a book recently called Hood Feminism by Mickey Kendall, and she speaks about feminism and how, we need to reframe what we're standing for, and how feminism isn't only about wage equality, but things like food security and safety from domestic abuse. And so always having that opportunity to speak together as a community on why we support women and people who identify as female in being empowered and being safe and accessing what they deserve in the world.
I think it's really important because a lot of people have a lot of things to fight for. equality's been probably one of the biggest things in the world for as long as like we're still fighting for it now. And so I think it's very important and very good to recognize all the fighting that's been going on and give the respect and give them like the attention that it deserves. And so especially for women's rights, it's been a huge thing, especially, and it's made big movements in recent times. And so I think it's really nice that we're taking time to appreciate and acknowledge everything that's gone on and the change in the world, because in such a time like this that isn't, the brightest, it's good to pick out the light and choose to shine it on those things instead of the negatives.
I think it's important because it shows how women can be just as strong and independent as men, and I think it's just good to celebrate all the powerful women in the world.
Well, I think it's really important to recognize that misogyny is still very deeply rooted in our society and in our systems, and I think it's just really important to be able to recognize that there are still women in places of empowerment to show like little girls out there that there's people that they can look up to and things like that.
Well, I think that we still we have a sort of illusion of gender equity, I think, and that's kind of, it sounds really negative, sorry, but I do think there is a sort of illusion of gender equity. The idea being because we have women and girls present in some spaces that we've achieved equity. So for example, because some women are bosses, or because some girls play hockey, or because some girls put their hand up first in math class, that we have achieved equity. But unfortunately, we know the wage gap still exists. We know that gap is even wider for folks who are gender nonconforming. We know that rates of mental health are poorer among women and girls, and that women today face many of the same barriers that women of the past faced, unfortunately. So I think the first thing is that we have to look deeper at what equity actually means, and that's something that I think your generation in particular is going to be excellent at overcoming or kind of breaking down. Because I notice on mediums like TikTok, on short form media and longer form media like YouTubers and some of the other types of media that you folks are consuming, I see that talk about, okay, but is it really equity if it's only accessible to certain types of people?
Absolutely.
Or is it really equity if, there's a math class and the girl puts her hand up first, but the 23 other people in the math class are boys? Is it really equity if, the men's hockey team has people who are paid, millions of dollars, and the women's hockey team, who has even more decorated athletes, are not making a living wage? Is that really equity? So we have to be more selective, and we have to be more demanding as marginalized peoples about what those things mean. And I think we can look to intersectional theorists to help us with that, because as an amazing woman, Audre Lorde, said, our freedom is tied all together. So if only some women are present in those spaces, but some women aren't, or only cisgender women are present in spaces, but gender nonconforming and trans women aren't, then we're not really there yet. That's a sign that we haven't arrived. So we still have work to do, but I think that your generation is the one that's going to do it. I have so much hope.
So from being in your class, we have seen your examples of underrepresented people in math and science. Why do you make this presentation, and how does it help with these barriers?
Well, this presentation was inspired initially by the Black Lives Matters movement in the United States a couple years ago, where a lot of people asked the question, what other systemic racisms do we have in our society? And I looked at my teaching of math and about how the names of all the famous mathematicians I knew were all white men. And I wanted to learn more about people who've made contributions in math and science who weren't white men. So it grew beyond just racism, and I've learned the names of people like Chien-Shiung Wu, who developed an experiment that upended centuries of knowledge in physics, and her two male colleagues won the Nobel Prize for it, where she did not win anything. I've also learned about Jennifer Doudna, who did win the Nobel Prize for her work in chemistry, developing a new technology called CRISPR that is going to have long-reaching changes in our world in medicine and health. And so I feel like when I was able to learn this stuff, I was able to share it with my students as well, to show them that even though most of the names of the famous mathematicians and scientists that they can think of are white men, that does not mean that math and science are only available to white men, that it is a field where women, people of color, LGBTQ individuals have made important and significant contributions, and that every one of my students should be able to see themselves in careers in these two particular areas.
I'm confident when
I'm confident when
I'm confident when I'm performing.
I'm with my friends.
I feel most confident when I'm dancing.
I'm confident when I'm playing piano.
I'm confident when I make people laugh. When I'm on stage.
I'm confident when I'm wearing a nice outfit.
When I uplift others. I'm with family.
I am confident when I'm acting.
When I'm in Wage.
I'm confident when I'm helping others.
Happy International Women's Day.
Happy International Women's Day. Happy International Women's Day.
Happy International Women's Day.
Happy International Women's Day.
Can't stop the beat, I won't stop the beat and go!